So, when you go to finance a car, you have that installment plan. When you do that installment plan, your payments are the same throughout, right? So what they do is think about it. You you pay the same amount. Certain amount goes towards interest on that payment, and then the rest goes towards your principal. But but the amount that goes towards your interest on that car payment is calculated using the simple interest formula. So there are two types of interest that we need to talk about today and next time. One's called simple interest, and the other one's called compound interest. So let's talk about what simple interest is. So simple interest is interest that is earned or calculated. Let me do it this way. Interest that is calculated on the principal only. On the principal only. So principal is the amount that you still have left to pay. For example, car loans. All of you have a car loan probably that you're still paying off. Those car loans are at the same. You pay the same amount each month, unless you're wealthy enough to buy it right away. Okay, so simple interest. All right, so let's talk about the formula for simple interest. I'll give you these formulas, so just make sure on your test next week you can use the formula. So I'll give you the formula for simple interest. So simple interest formula is I equals PRT. So PRT. I equals PRT. Okay, let's talk about each of those letters represent those variables. So I is the interest earned, or the interest, because remember you're talking about car loans, so it's interest that you have to pay, not earn. Your your savings account, your savings account, the amount you get would be in some cases, not always, but in some cases it could be simple interest, and in some cases it could be compound interest. So it depends on the type of interest, whether it's simple or compound. Car loans, though, would be simple interest. So I stands for interest. I stands for interest. P stands for the principal, or the um, the amount that you borrowed, or the amount that if we can say it this way, P is the principal, or it could be the amount that the interest is based on. Okay, the rate is the interest rate. So R is the interest rate, and it must be listed as a decimal. Listed as a decimal. And T is the time, and time must be in years. So T is the time, and must be in years. All right, so T is the time, and it must be in years. Okay, so T is your time. So if you look at the first problem that's on that sheet, or one of the first ones, so let's look at, and I gave you, all of you have that handout? The one that has all these little marks. I blacked out all the answers. So go ahead and take that one out. So let's look at number one. So you're told that P is $4,000. So the question says the principal is borrowed at simple interest rate for a period of time. Find the simple interest owed for the use of money and assume there are 360 days in a year. Okay, so number one, you're told the principal is 4,000. So you borrow $4,000. The interest rate is 6%, and the time is 1 year. Okay, time is 1 year. So you want to find out how much interest is owed on that loan at the end of 1 year. So all you do is just plug it back into your formula. So you're going to say I equals P. What's the principal in this case? 4,000 times the rate. Always write the rate as a decimal. What's 6% as a decimal? 0.06. And then times the time, and time must be in years. So what's the time here? 1. So use your calculator. What do y'all get? 4,000 times 0.06 times 1. All right, $240. Okay. Let's look at number 4. I'm sorry, number 3. Let's do number 3. So number 3, you're told the principal is $180. The rate is 3%, and this time your time is 2 years. All right, so you borrowed $180 from your friend, and your friend is telling you that you're going to be paying 3% interest on that thing, on that amount, and you're going to pay back at the end of 2 years. So you say, give me 2 years, I'll pay you back that amount. All right, that's assuming you don't pay anything back before then, right? Because that changes a lot of stuff. So we're assuming that the end of 2 years, that's when you're going to give them, your friend, $180 plus whatever interest you owe. All right, well, how much interest do you owe? What's the formula? Come on, guys, what's the formula? I equals PRT, right? Principal times rate times time. That's your simple interest formula. So I equals the principal. What's the principal? 180 times the rate. What's the rate as a decimal? So what's 3% as a decimal? 0.03. And then time is 2. So using your calculator, what do you get? $10.80? Is that right? All right, $10.80. Okay, that's your interest. So that's how much money you have to pay. Well, interest you have to pay. What would be the total you would have to pay? The 180 plus the what? 1080? Okay. All right, let's look at number 5. Number 5, you're told that the principal is 5,000. The rate is 8.5%, and the time is 9 months. All right, now you need to be a little bit careful with that one. So you want to find the simple interest on that loan. So the principal, the interest equals principal times rate times time. So the principal is $5,000. That's how much you borrowed. Times the rate. What do you write the rate as? 0.085 times. All right, now let's talk about the time. If you put 9, okay, I'm telling you, listen carefully. If you do this, you're implying that the time is 9 years. But that's not 9 years, that's 9 months. So you got to remember how to convert months to years. It's kind of easy to remember. 6 months, let's say. 6 months is how many years? A half. Well, how'd you go from 6 months to A half. Let's just talk about 6 months for a moment. 6 months, you just told me is a half a year, right? That you just told me. So how'd you go from 6 months to a half? I mean, I know you know it, but how would you tell someone what would they need to do to convert months to years? What'd you do? Divide by what? How many months are in a year? 12. So to convert months to years, you divide by what? 12. So you would, if this was 6 months, you'd say 6 divided by 12, which is reduced as a half, right? So to convert months to years, divide by 12. Because there are how many months in a year? How many months in a year? 12. So you're going to multiply it not by 9, but by 9 what? 12ths. That's all you do. 9 divided by 12. That's what you multiply by. That's your time. So my time is not 9. It's not just 9. It's 9 months. But that factor has to be in terms of a year. So you say 9/12. So on your calculator, tell me what you get. Use your calculator. You're going to say 5,000 times, let's see if you can see this, 5,000 times 0.085 times 9, and then what else do I need to press? Divide by 12, and then press equal. So it's like $318.75. Is that what y'all got on your calculator? Okay. All right. Any question at this point? So on your test, Saturday, given the month, y'all know you have to divide by 12, right? Okay. Okay, let's look at 7. 7.
Is the formula going to be included on?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Oh.
Yeah, you just have to know how to use it. Okay, so 7, you're told that the principal is $12,600. The rate is 11%, and that the time is 90 days. Time is 90 days. And you want to find out at the end of 90 days, how much interest do you owe?
Wait, are we doing 7 or 8?
Number 7, is that right or wrong?
Oh, you said 12,600.
Was that number 7? Did I write it wrong?
That was 8.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I want you to do 7. So 7 is 9,000, is that right? Okay.
15.
Yeah. We can stay with 8. You want to stay with 8? Since I already have it written, is that 8? So the whole thing is wrong, right? All right. Let's just delete that and just I said 7. Is that right? All right. So 7. The principal is 15,500. The rate is 11%, and the time is 90 days. So I'd had the principal wrong. Okay. All right. So that's number 7. All right. Well, again, be a little bit careful, because if you find the interest, the simple interest on this, and you say that interest equals the principal times the rate, and what's 11% as a decimal? 0.11 times, and if you put 90, well, I won't be here 90 years. So what's missing there? The 90 here doesn't represent 90 years. What does the 90 represent? Days. So now you got to convert days to years. You all know how to convert months to years. You divide by 12 to convert months to years. For days, what are you going to say?
You divide 90 over 365.
Yeah. So there are how many days in a year? Now over here it says assume how many days in the problem though. So let's do what the problem says. 360. So the problem says 360. I'll tell you, and there's a reason why they use 360. Back in the day, before calculators, it was easier to use 360 than 365. It didn't make that much of a difference in terms of interest, but it was easier when there wasn't a calculator to use 360 instead of 365. But we have calculators, so let's just use what they told us to use. So let's just use 360. So you're going to say 90 divided by what? 360. And so what do you get? $15,000. I'll tell you how many days in the year to use. So 15,500, is that correct? Times 0.11 times 90 divided by 360. So it looks like you got $426.25. Okay. If you had used 365, 15,500 times 0.11 times 90 divided by 365, what you'll get in this case. Now notice what happens. I think, let's see, 15,500 times 0.11 times 90 divided by 365. So notice, you see back in the day before calculators, it was difficult to deal with a division where it didn't terminate. See how this terminated right here? Right here? It stopped at 0.25. Here it didn't. So back in the day they used 360 because the months were easily divisible or can easily be reduced into 360. If I round this to the nearest hundredth, we're talking about money. So we're saying $420 and how many cents? How do I round this off? Is it 41 cents or 42 cents? 41. Because if this number in the thousands place, that's 0. If that was 5 or higher, then the 1 becomes a what? 2. Okay, good. So you would say $420.41. So notice back in the day for them, I mean, it was easier to calculate the interest that way than that way. And they ended up with them getting themselves more money anyway, right? Because you have to pay how much more money doing it 360 rather than 365? It's like what, $6 or so? Okay.
Could we also, like, instead of using 90 days, could we just use like three months? It's the same. Like if we did 3 divided.
Oh well, okay. Now here's okay. Good point. You're assuming there are exactly 30 days in a month. Yeah, but there's not exactly 30 days in a month. If you think about the whole year idea. So some days have 30 days. I mean, some months have 30 days. Some months have 31. If it's a leap year, you could get that 28 or whatever it may be, 29 for February. So it depends. So yeah, I would not change it to 3 months. I would go ahead and actually use the days. Just divide by 360. But that's a good question. We just got to remember that there are not 30 days in a month. Okay. Now let's look at number 9. Okay, so number 9, it says the principal P is borrowed at simple interest. So you're still dealing with simple interest. Find the loan's future value or the total amount due at time T. Okay, so let's talk about future value. Here's what we mean by future value. Okay, so and there's a formula for that. And I'll tell you what it is in a little while. But what I want to do is talk about what we mean by future value. Okay, so you borrow money from your friend. Let's go back to number 7. So I borrowed, how much money did I borrow? 15,500. Was that really the value of the loan? The future value of the loan? So in other words, what I mean by future value is what was the actual cost? What was the actual cost of getting that loan to you? Was it 15,500? No, because what else had to happen? What else did you have to pay? The interest. That's what we mean by future value. So the future value in terms of this loan, and you can talk about future value in terms of your house, in terms of all kinds of other stuff. But that idea in terms of future value becomes a little bit more complicated because there are other variables that could occur in terms of determining the future value of some tangible possession that increases in price or decreases in price. But for us, in this section, we're only talking about, in this case, like a loan or something. That's simple interest. Simple interest. So the future value, when we talk about future value of you taking out a simple interest loan and paying it back, means not only what you borrowed, but also the interest you earned, you had to pay. So if I go back to number 7, I ask you, what is the future value of this loan? Then you would say, well, it will be the principal plus the what? The interest. It'll be the principal plus the interest, right? And so the future value, I'm going to call this as FV. So future value, FV, based on just number 7, would be the principal plus the interest. Well, what's the principal? 15,500 plus what's the interest? Let's use this one. What's the interest? 426.25. And then when you add them up, what's the future value of that loan? $15,926.25. Okay. Any questions at that point? Any questions, guys? Let me know. Okay. Now there's a formula you can use. And I want you to think about what that formula is and how to get it. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what the formula is, and then I'll make a comparison with what we just wrote. So here's the formula for future value. Future value is principal times, in parentheses, 1 plus RT. The principal times 1 plus RT. That's the future value. And you may say, well, that looks different than what you wrote above, because what did I have right above that? And I had future value equals what? Principal plus the interest, right? Principal plus the interest. But then I'm saying something that looks different. Well, they're actually the same thing. They just look different, but they are the same thing. And so what I want to do is this. I want to show you we can get the same answer. Okay, I want to do this. I want to do number 7 using this formula for future value. So future value is the principal. What was the principal in number 7? 15,500 times 15,500 times, in parentheses be important using this formula now, 1 plus the rate. What's the rate? Number 7. 0.11 times the time. Now remember, time must be in years. And number 7, what was the time? 90 days. So I got to convert 90. I got to divide 90 by what? Yeah, let's use 360. Since that's what they asked us to use. Okay, now here's how you should calculate. take your calculator out and listen carefully to this. We're going to use, in a little while, we're going to look at a more complicated formula. So it's very important that you know how to use your calculator. Okay. So you're going to say 15,000 on your calculator, 15,500 times parentheses. Put a parentheses, open the parentheses. You need parentheses there. Okay. And you're going to say 1 plus, what else do I type? You type what you see. What else do you type? 0.11, right? What else do I type? Come on, guys, tell me. Times 90 divided by 360, and then I got to use the close parentheses. Close parentheses, and then press equal. What do you notice? What's the future value? Do you get the same thing? Get the same thing. Those formulas are actually the same thing. Now, here's the difference. Here's the difference between the two. If all they want to know is the future value, if all they want to know is I borrowed this amount of money, I have this interest rate, I'm paying it back at the end of the time period, and if all I want to know is how much money am I going to owe altogether, the future value, then I can use this formula right away. You don't have to memorize the formula. It's difficult to remember, along with some other formulas you have to deal with. But another way to do this, if I want to find what my total cost is at the end of a time period, all I need to know are two things: the principal, and what else do I need to know? Yeah, but the interest, right? I need to know how much interest I have to pay back. Because if I know the principal and how much interest I have to pay, then what do I do to those two things to find the future value? Add them up. That's what this one right here said. This right here, that's what that said. But if they tell you to use the formula, then you got to use the formula. Okay? Now let's talk about why these two are the same thing. So let me show you this. So remember a while ago I wrote down that the the future value is P plus I, where I was the interest. Well, what's the formula for simple interest? What's the formula for simple interest?
PRT.
PRT. So this is P plus PRT. Now, depending on your algebra skill, what do you notice, what variable do these two terms have in common? What do you see? P. So remember, one of the things you could do in algebra was to factor out whenever possible. So I'm going to factor out a P. Now I want you to think about this. P, distributed property. P times what is P? 1. Plus, if I factor out the P times what is going to give me this back? P times what is this? RT. And that's what this is. RT. So that's where that formula came from. It's just showing the fact that future value is the principal plus the interest. And the interest is PRT, and you just factor out a P. That's all that is.
Does it matter which one we use?
Well, it depends. If they tell you to use the formula for future value, then use the formula for future value. Okay? So let's go now to number 9. Number 9.
Hey, can you show us again how to do it on the calculator?
You using this formula?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you need to know how to do that. So on your calculator, you're going to say 15,500. So type that in first. So 15,500. And then when you read it as 15,500 times, right? So you can say times, parentheses, 1 plus 0.11. So 0.11. What's the operation that you see here? multiplication, so times, what's the number that you see? 90. What am I doing to that 90? Dividing by what? 360. And then what do you see at the end? Parentheses. So close the parentheses. And then press equal, and you get that. Okay? So just make sure that you know how to use your calculator. Did you get that?
No, I think I pressed the wrong button. I have a different calculator, mine, like,
Yeah, you got to know how to use your calculator. So you need to see me after class because this is the one I'm using right now. Okay? All right. Did you have the same calculator as I do?
No,
No, yeah, I know you don't, but you have the same.
no, I got it at home. I got it at home.
Oh, okay, so it's a different calculator. So yeah, you gotta. The way I did it, see this kind of calculator. That's why I asked you to buy that one because this is easy kind to where what you see is what you type in. You get it. But just see me after class, and we can work on yours. Hopefully, you didn't throw away the owner's manual.
I have another one at the house, too,
Okay.
though. I got one at the house.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Try and see which one's easiest to use for you. Okay. Let's look at number 9. So number 9, you're told that the principal is 3,000. The rate is 7%, and the time is 2 years. Okay. Now the direction says this. Now you're dealing with simple interest, so this loan is a simple interest loan. Which means this. Which means, now that's assuming you don't pay anything back, because that makes things a little bit more difficult to compute. But that's assuming that you borrowed, and this thing is so blurry. What was that I said? What is that number? No, the principal, I'm sorry. 3,000. Okay. They're never going to fix this overhead. 3,000. So the principal is 3,000, the rate's 7%, and the time is 2 years. So that's implying that you borrowed $3,000, and you're going to pay it back only at the end of 2 years. That's what that means. Okay? That's what that means. All right. So what they want to know, though, is what is the future value? That's all they want to know. They want to know, what is that future value? So we know that you're going to be paying a lot more than 3,000. Maybe not a lot more, but you're still going to be more. That future value is what you end up paying on that loan. What is the loan's worth at the end of that 2-year period? Well, that loan is your principal plus the what? The interest. Okay? But they want you to use the formula. So let's go ahead and use the formula just so you can get used to it. Use the formula. Because there's a formula later on that's extremely complicated to punch in. So you need to know how to use your calculator. All right, so let's do this again. So first of all, the formula says future value is principal times 1 plus RT. Let's just use it. Now, if all else fails, now you know that to find your future value for a simple interest loan is just your principal plus your interest, right? So if all else fails, you can just find the interest first. And then add the two together, right? That's all. That's what this is doing. But let's use a formula. So, what's the principal? 3,000 times 1 plus R. What's R? 0.07 times the time, which is 2. And I don't have to divide by anything because the time's already in years. Okay, now use your calculator. What do I type in first? 3,000 times, in parentheses, what do I type in? 1 plus 0.07 times, good, times what? 2, and then press what? Parentheses, close parentheses, and then press equal. What's the future value? $3,420. That's the future value. So that's how much that loan is worth in the future. Okay? All right, now those of you, now you're not even using the calculator. Where's your calculator? Oh, I see. You know how to use it?
Yeah, I'm trying.
You trying? Y'all all have different calculators. He has a different calculator from someone else, and they have a calculator for different from someone else. All right, let's look at number. Let's do 13. So the principal this time is $9,000. The rate is 6.5%, and the time is 8 months. Okay, so the principal's $9,000, the rate 6.5%, and the time is 8 months. All right, remember, dealing with simple interest, not compound interest. There's a whole different formula for compound. This is just simple interest. So which means that in this particular case, you borrowed $5,000 of, good Lord, it's so blurry. What is that again? 9,000 or 5,000? Wow. Okay, 9,000. You borrowed $9,000. And at the end of that 8 months period, I'm going to pay that back to my friend with interest. I'm not going to pay anything back before. I'm going to wait until the 8 months and pay it all back. Okay? What's the future value? So how much money will I end up having to pay back? So let's use a formula. Now, you all know that if all else fails with your calculator, then you can just find the interest first, I equals PRT, and then add that to what amount? The $9,000 of principal? Okay. So your future value, let's use a formula though. Future value is 9,000 times, and what do I put in parentheses? 1 plus, come on, tell me what to write. Point what? 0.065. Yeah, so to convert a decimal to a percent, to convert a percent to a decimal, you drop the percent symbol and move the decimal point 2 places to the left. And then times, what else do I write? 8 over divided by 12. Good, because there are 12 months in a year, so you have to convert months to years. Okay, now use your calculator. All right, all of you try to use your calculator. Use your calculator. Go ahead and do it now. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to use your calculator, and then I want to see what you have. Wait, hold on. Okay, so in your calculator, you'd say 9,000 times in parentheses 1 plus the rate, which is 0.065, 6.5%, times 8. Remember, 8's months, so you got to convert that to years. So divide by 12, close the parentheses, press equal. Oh, what did I mess up? Oh, let me see. I messed up something because obviously, you know how I got 390? So you know that's not correct, right? Because the future value better be more than your principal. So let's do it again. 9,000 times parentheses. What I'm doing to make sure I don't forget any steps. 1 plus 0.065 times 8 divided by 12. Close the parentheses. Press equal. Okay, now I got it. So $9,390. All right. Now, suppose someone tells you the future value is that. Can you tell from there what the interest is that you pay? What's the interest just from that amount? $390. Because the principal was $9,000. That's what you borrowed. You have to pay how much interest? $390. Okay, now let's look at number 15. Okay, 15. Okay, so you're told the principal is 2,000. You're told that A is $2,150, and the time is 1 year. Time is 1 year. Now read the direction. The direction says this. The direction says the principal is borrowed and the loan's future value A is given. And they want you to determine the loan's simple interest rate. So this time you're finding which variable. The rate. You're trying to find the rate. Okay, so let's talk about how to do that. Okay. Now remember, they use the letter A. In our formula, A stood for what letter here? The future value. Okay, so that's what that stands for. So this right here is your future value. Okay. All right. So here's what you do. Now listen carefully. You have to know how to use your calculator to determine this. Okay. Now I'm gonna do something both ways just to give you an idea of how they're related. So I'm going to go ahead and use the formula to begin with. So A equals P times 1 plus RT. So go ahead and write that down. So A in this case means future value. So what is the future value of this loan? What's the future value of this loan? $2,150, right? $2,150. So $2,150 equals the principal. What's the principal? 2,000 times 1 plus R, which is what I'm trying to find, times T. And what's T? 1. Okay, now look at what I have. Now this will become complicated for some of you, but listen carefully. I'm trying to solve for which variable? R. I'm trying to solve for R. Okay? And I'm going to do it a different way. But I'm trying to solve for R. So this is what I'm trying to solve for. So what I need to do first, you see this number that's in front of this parentheses? I need to get rid of that first. Now, do y'all agree? Do y'all agree that this is multiplication right here? The opposite of multiplication is what? Division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2,000. Just like this. Okay? So then I get 2,150 divided by 2,000 equals, now these divide out, and you're left with 1 plus, and then what's R times 1 the same as? R. And all you do is get R by itself. Right now this says 1 plus R, so I get rid of that 1. So what do I need to do to both sides? Do I need to add 1 or subtract 1? Subtract 1. So you're going to subtract 1 from both sides. Subtract 1 from both sides. Okay, now look at what you have. Look, I'm writing this out. 2,150 divided by 2,000 minus 1 equals R. Now on your calculator, figure out what this is. So 2,150 divided by what number? 2,000. And then I got to subtract what? 1 and then press equal. R is what decimal? What decimal do you see?
0.075.
Okay, but you got to write this as a percent. So what's this as a percent? 7.5%. Okay.
I'm
So
sorry, it got really blurry and I kind of lost my spot.
Okay.
So all you're doing is taking the original formula for
future value,
future value.
plugging
and-
stuff in,
You're plugging everything in except for the rate,
except for the rate. Yes.
and you're just isolating the rate. and then
Isolating the
working
rate.
it out.
Yep. Yeah, just solving this equation like you did in the past. Except you got to remember how to solve an equation like this, though. So first thing I did, whenever you're solving for the rate, first thing you got to do is divide both sides by this number that's in front, this coefficient. Then what happens when you do that? This number which you divided by, because it's the same thing, you can get a 1 here, so you're left with just this. So 1 plus r times 1 is just 1 plus r. And then to get r by itself, you subtract 1 from both sides, and then just use your calculator. Now, I want to say this. So I want you to think about this. Let's talk about this in a different way. Okay? Now listen carefully. The future value is 2,100. Where am I? Right here. $2,150. The principal was $2,000. What was the interest that you had to pay back? $150. So y'all agree that the interest is $2,150 minus $2,000, which is $150? Okay, I want you to think about this. Now look how easier it is to do it this way. What's the formula for interest? Simple interest? PRT. Okay, watch. So we know that the formula for simple interest is interest equals principal times the rate times the time. Let's substitute. What is the interest? 150. What's the principal? 2,000. Times R times T. What's T? 1. Look at what I have. 150 equals, what's 2,000 times 1? So you all agree that's 2,000 R? And then how to get R by itself? Right now you're multiplying by 2,000. What's the opposite multiplying by 2,000? Divide by 2,000. And then I want you to see something now. So R equals 150 divided by 2,000. Kind of looks different than this, right? Do this, but it's actually the same thing, by the way. So 150 divided by 2,000, 150 divided by 2,000, what'd you get? 0.075, which is what percent? 7.5%. Okay? Use that one instead. Because you all know if the future value is given and you know your principal, then you know your interest. And you know the formula for interest. What's the formula for interest?
PRT.
Simple interest is I equals PRT. So you see that part's easier to do it that way. It doesn't matter. It does not matter which approach you take, but this seems to be a little bit easier to understand, right? And actually easier to use. Okay, let's do another one. So I'm gonna do the other one. Do it both ways. Do it both ways again, and I think you're gonna agree that this is probably the easiest way to deal with it, and it's easy to understand. So let's look at number 17. Number 17. Okay, so this time you're told the principal is 5,000. The future value is it 17? 5,000? Okay, the future value is $5,900. And the time is 2 years. So the principal is $5,000. The future value is $5,900, and the time is 2 years. Okay, let's do using the complicated formula first, the future value formula. Let's do it that way. All right. So the future value formula says this. It says future value, which I'm going to call A, is equal to the principal times 1 plus RT. Okay? And let's substitute. What is A in this case? 5,900. What is P, the principal? 5,000. Times 1 plus the rate, which is trying to find, times T. So that's R times T. What is T? 2. Now, it's always easiest to put the coefficient in front of the R. So I'm not going to write it as R times 2. I'm going to just put it as 2R. You understand? Just like you did in algebra, where it's 2R in parentheses. Okay, now think about the process we went through to get R by itself. You first of all got to get rid of this 5,000. Right now, I'm multiplying by 5,000. What's the opposite of multiplying by 5,000? Divide by 5,000. Okay, so let's do that first. So I get 5,900 divided by 5,000 equals, okay, these divide out, you're left with 1 plus 2R. Just like the previous one, if you compare it to the previous one, same idea. Okay, but look, I want to show you something from the previous one. If you look at the previous one, right here, so you see how I had, this is 1 plus 2R, this is what? 1 plus R. Why was this one just an R right here?
Because it was only 1 year.
1 year, very good. Okay. And actually it was easy to solve for if it's just R. This is 2R. All right, so just got to be a little bit more careful with it. Okay, so we're gonna isolate the 2R's. I'm gonna get rid of the 1 first. So I'm gonna subtract 1 from both sides, just like in the previous problem. So I got 5,900 divided by 5,000 minus 1, and all that's equal to what term? 2R. But remember, you got to get R by itself. So what's the next thing? Divide by 2, just like this. Divide by 2. And both sides, see how I did this? Both sides. So these divide out, so this is your R right here. So 5,900 divided by 5,000, whatever that is, you're going to subtract 1. Whatever all that is, you have to divide all of that by what? 2. Not easy. It is not easy to deal with. But it's doable. It's just not an easy task because you could have easily messed up on your calculator. Now be careful on your calculator. So what I want to do is I want you to try, without me telling you the steps, I want to see what you get using your calculator. So those of you with calculators, go ahead and see what you get with this. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it for about 30 seconds, see how far you can get. Okay, so in your calculator, you're going to do the numerator first. So you're going to say 5,900, divided by 5,000. Then you can subtract 1. Now here's where the issue becomes. If you say divide by 2, then you get a wrong answer. You got to do what first? Enter. You got to press equal. So that gives you the numerator. That 0.18 is the numerator. But then I can divide that by what? 2. And then press equal, you get 0.09. So R is 0.09, which is what percent? 9%. It probably would have been a lot easier for you if you had done the other approach. And that's just using the fact that simple interest formula. What's the simple interest formula? I equals PRT. And to use that formula, though, you need to know the interest. How much interest did you end up paying back? Well, according to this problem, can you tell me how much interest you ended up paying back? 900. So you're going to say 900 equals the principal. What was the principal? Make sure you're using a principal, correct principal. It's 5,000. So 5,000 times the rate, which is what I'm looking for, times T. What's T? 2. And guys, do this now. See, this is a lot easier. Do this though. Go ahead right now and say 5,000 times 2 is what? 10,000. So you get 900 equals 10,000 R. I need another 0. 10,000 R. And now how do you get R by itself? Divide by 10,000. And so you get these divide out, so you get R equals, and on your calculator, tell me what 900 divided by 10,000 is. 900 divided by 10,000, what do you notice? 0.09. It does not matter which one you use. I think for a better understanding of what's happening, this is probably the better one to deal with. Okay, you understand what to do?
But you could also do 5,000 and 2R, right? Instead of 10,000R.
Okay, so if you say 5,000 equals 2R, and you get R by itself, that's not 9%.
Oh, that's equal. Oh, sorry. I can't print the screen.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's not easy screen to use. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you understand this is easy, right here. All right. Now the next problem, I'm going to do it the easy way. I'm not going to do it the difficult way. I'm going to do it the easy way. So let's look at the next one. So let's look at 19. 19. I have the principal is $2,300. The future value is 2,840, and T is 9 months. All right, so the principal is $2,300. The future value is $2,800, and the time is 9 months. Okay, let's use the more intuitive idea. Interest equals principal times rate times time. Simple interest. That's what we're dealing with. Simple interest. Okay, what's the interest in this case? Use your calc if you need to. So you're going to say, so you're going to find the interest. See, the others are easy to figure out because of the numbers used. Here, the interest, you're going to say 2,840 subtract what? 2,300? What'd you get? 540? You all agree that the interest you have to pay back is $540? Yes or no? Okay. So then you're going to say 540 equals the principal. What's the principal? Yeah. Now make sure you're using the correct number. So sometimes if you're not careful, you'll use the future value instead of the principal. So 2,300 times the rate times the time. What's the time? Tell me what you're right. 9 divided by 12. Okay. So that's what I get so far. Okay. All right. Now, here's the way I would approach this. You remember how we did this a while ago? I said, when we did this one, I said 5,000 times 2 is 10,000. Same thing here. On your calculator, say 2,300 times 9. 2,300 times 9. And then divide by what number? 12. You got 1,725? So that goes in front of R. So I get 540 equals 1,725 times R. And then finally, how do you get R by itself? Divide by what?
Both sides.
Okay, so let's see what R is. So 540 divided by 1,725, press equal. All right, see it looks like this? See right here? So it didn't terminate, right? So it looks like a nasty decimal. In the directions, it says round to the nearest tenth of a percent if you need to. So let's talk about what that means. So you got to round off here, right? In the other ones, you didn't have to round off. Here you do. So let's talk about what they mean by rounding to the nearest tenth of a percent. Tenth of a percent. All right, now here's what they mean, guys. Listen up. So you see how you have 0.31304, and so on? You see all that in your calculator? You got to first of all convert that decimal to a percent. So I got to move the decimal point which place? I'm going to go ahead and write it out. You get this. You get R equals 0.313043478 and so on. You move it 2 places to the right. And then this tenths place is what they're talking about. Round off here. So you got to look at this digit next to it, though. So since that's less than 5, the 3 stays 3. So tell me what the rate is. 31.3%? Okay. So just out of curiosity, let's suppose you do your division. And this is what you have. And I want you to round off to the nearest tenth of a percent. So let's say you got this to be R. 0.2677481. Okay? And I want to write this to the nearest tenth of a percent. First of all, I got to do what? Change the percent first. I move the decimal point 2 places to the right. And then this becomes the tenths place now. So am I going to leave it as 7 or I'm going to write this as 8? Yeah, because then you got to look at this place value. Since that's 5 or bigger, the 7 becomes 8. So the answer would be 26.8%. Okay? What if you had this? R equals 0.32529896 and so on. What would that be to the nearest tenth of a percent? What do you think? I know you can't see it up there. It's 32.3252896. Yeah, y'all agree it's 32.5? You got to first of all change that to a percent with the decimal point 2 places to the right. Then this becomes the tenths place. So is my answer going to be 32.5% or 32.6%? Yeah, because this is less than 5, so that stays 5. So 32.5%. Okay, any questions on rounding off to nearest tenth? Okay. All right, you try this one. Suppose, I'm making this up. So suppose, write this example. Suppose that the principal is 4,000. The future value, let's say, is 4,320. And the time is, let's say, 8 months. All right, so 4,000 is your principal, $4,320 is the future value, and the time is 8 months. All right, so go ahead and do the best you can with finding the interest rate. Okay, so in this case, your interest is $320. You're going to say the future value minus the principal, so you get $320. And you're trying to find the interest rate, right? The simple interest rate. That's what you're trying to find. Well, there's a formula for simple interest. The formula for simple interest is I equals P, the principal, times the rate, times the time. And so you just substitute what you know. I know the interest. What's my interest? $320. Equals the principal. What's the principal? 4,000. Times the rate, which is what I'm trying to find, times the time. What's the time? 8 divided by 12. All right, so that's where I'm at. That's what all of you should have at least written down. Okay, now what I want you to do is to figure out what this product is right here. This 4,000 times this 8/12. So you're going to say 4,000 times 8 divided by 12. Now remember, I made up that problem, so it didn't come out very nicely, as you can see, right? So this product is 2666.66 and so on. That's what you see in your display. And I did tell you, I said, if it doesn't come out to be a nice number, a whole number, then make it a whole number. But if you're going to round this up, if you're going to round this to the nearest whole number, you got to round at the ones place. But you got to look at the digit next to it on the right. Since that's 5 or bigger, the 6 becomes a 7. So this is going to be 320 equals 2,667 R. That's what that becomes. So quite a few little rounding things you got to remember. And then finally, how to get R by itself. Divide by, what do I divide by? 2,667. And so these divide out, so you get R equals on your calculator, what is 320 divided by 2,667. Press equal, and this is what you see. You see this. R equals 0.119985 and so on. That's what you see, right? Okay, well, let's think about our discussion a while ago. So it didn't come out to be a nice number. It didn't terminate. So what I want to do first is remember the direction. Direction says round to nearest tenth of a percent. So I've got to convert that to percent first. So which means I have to move that decimal point 2 places to the right. So the tenth place now becomes this. But that's a 9, so you got to be careful with these 9s. So a while ago, remember, let me go back to the previous one. See right here when I did this one? So this 5 became a 5 or became a 6, right? In this case, since this number was less than 5, the 5 stayed 5. Here, this 9 that I'm pointing to that's in the tenths place becomes a 9 or a 10. What does it become? Does it stay a 9? Do I add 1 to it? I add 1 because this that I'm circling is 5 or greater. But what is 1 and 9? 10. So really in your mind you have this, a 1 and a 0. So what's 1 plus 1 right here? 2. So this becomes 0.120, right? Because the 9 became a 10, so the 0's here. So you agree that's 12% or 12.0%? Whichever one you want to write. Doesn't matter. You just remember how to deal with the 9s. The 9s causes issues for some people when you're rounding. Oh, what you're trying to find? Well, you're trying to find the rate given this information. So you're told that the principal is 4,000 the future value is $4,320, and the times 8 months. So you want to find out the rate, what the rate is. Well, we know that from here you can find the interest by subtracting the principal from the future value. So the interest is $320. So if I'm trying to find the rate, I can use the interest, simple interest formula, and just solve for R.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
If we use, how can we use the future value formula that you had earlier, the complicated one?
You want to do it using a why would you do that? Okay, so I'm not sure why he wants to use the future value formula, but we can go ahead and do that. I would not do it on the test because you tend to mess up a little bit more with it.
Consume time.
So the future value is, or the amount is the principal times 1 plus RT, right? So the amount is 4,320. The principal is 4,000 times 1 plus R, which I'm trying to find, times T, which is 8/12. That becomes a little bit more complicated. Well, if you remember what we did before, what was the first thing we dealt with first?
Get rid of the 4,000.
The 4,000. So what did I do to remove that 4,000 from there? Divide. And so these divide out, so you get 4,320 divided by 4,000 equals 1 plus 8/12 T. Okay? Now, let's see what happens, okay, and then remember the next thing was we subtracted 1. Remember that approach? That was the next thing we did, subtract 1. So if you go back to all the ones, we didn't do many with it. We did, I think this is a third or fourth one right here. So I get 4,320 divided by 4,000, subtract 1 equals 8/12 T. Now, what I would probably do, first of all, is see if I can write 8/12 as a decimal. So let's do that. Let's divide 8.
Excuse me, 12T or 12R?
I'm sorry, I meant R. Thank you. R. Yes, thank you. All right, 12R. See, I had a R here. For some reason, I just wrote T. I meant R. So 8 divided by 12. So you see how you get this? 0.666666 and so on. What I would do there is because rounding off to the tenths place may not be enough digits. So I would probably include maybe 3 digits here, so that would be 0.667. 0.667. So you get 4,320 minus 4,000 minus 1 equals 0.667 R. I would include as many digits as possible. And then you divide both sides by what? 0.667. And so therefore, on your calculator, just like we did before, you do this first, then press equal, and then divide by this. So let's see if it's approximately equal to what we had when we did the other way. But remember, I rounded off here, so it's not going to be exactly the same thing. 4,320 divided by 4,000 minus 1. Press equal. That's my numerator. But then we divide by 0.667, and I get this. So it's almost the same thing. You'll see, so it's 12%. But I'm not sure, man, why you want to do it this way.
Well, we're just seeing it.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I would not do that on a test. I would do the easier way, which is this right here. Okay, yeah, but you get the same thing, and I think you had tried doing it that way as well. So, okay. All right, any questions at this point? All right, let's go ahead and take about 5-minute break.